early humans did not catch dinner with speed, they caught it with patience. That is the secret weapon nobody talks about. Forget speed, forget strength. Our ancestors survived because they could outweight almost anything on the planet, including their own hunger. Here is how patience became the ultimate hunting tool, and why the people who had none of it usually went hungry first. Here is the strange part nobody expects. The fastest way to get a full meal back then was often to move as slowly as possible. Rushing looked productive, but it usually ended in an empty stomach and a wasted afternoon. Waiting looked lazy from the outside, but it was actually the harder, smarter choice. That single paradox shaped almost every survival decision our ancestors ever made. Picture East Africa roughly 2 million years ago. Hot grasslands stretched to the horizon in every direction. Small bands of early humans move through that heat together, day after day. They carry sharpened sticks, not spears. They have no bows and no rifles. They have no traps that spring shut on their own. What they have is time, patience, and the discipline to use both without breaking. That combination alone kept entire families alive through seasons that offered almost nothing for free. Here is the fact that surprises most people. Average life expectancy back then hovered around 30 years, sometimes less. Yet a single hunt could still take 5, 6, even 8 hours from start to finish. A hunter could chase one animal for hours straight, walking, then jogging, then walking again, never fully stopping the chase. There was no sprint and no ambush from the shadows. There was only relentless, patient pursuit until the animal simply gave out from exhaustion. This method has a real name. Scientists call it persistence hunting. It sounds slow and almost boring compared to a chase scene in a movie. In reality, it was one of the smartest survival strategies our species ever developed, and a few hunters in the Kalahari Desert still use it today. Researchers have filmed these modern hunts, and they look almost identical to what our ancestors likely did. Cause one is a body advantage most people never think about. Humans sweat through their skin, and that single trait changes everything. Animals like kudu or wildebeest cool down mostly by panting, and panting only works properly when they stop moving. A human could keep jogging through the worst heat of the day while the animal had to slow down just to keep its own body from overheating. Patience turned a simple biological quirk into a devastating weapon, and the animal never saw it coming until it was already too tired to run. Cause 2 is a brain advantage that took even longer to build. Early humans could track prey with real precision. They read footprints pressed into dust and dried mud. They noticed broken twigs, bent grass, and tiny drops of blood on stone. None of this was random guesswork. It was pattern recognition, sharpened over an entire lifetime of watching the land closely. Reading these signs took real focus, and focus always takes patience. A hunter who rushed lost the trail within minutes, sometimes seconds. A hunter who stayed calm read the whole story the ground was quietly telling him, one small clue at a time. Modern trackers who still practice this skill today can name an animal, its size, and even its mood just from one clear print in soft dirt. That level of detail only comes from years of slow, patient observation, never from a quick glance. Not every hunt involved hours of running under the sun. Sometimes patience meant sitting completely still near a waterhole, hidden and silent for hours at a time. Hunters waited for a thirsty animal to wander close enough for one clean throw, no more, no less. Moving too soon scared off every animal for miles around, wasting an entire day of effort. Staying still, quiet, and uncomfortable meant dinner for the whole group that night, and everyone involved understood exactly what was at stake. Patience also shaped the tools themselves, long before any hunt even started. Making a sharp stone point was slow, deliberate work, not a quick job. Early tool makers chipped flint for hours, sometimes across several days, just to get one clean, usable edge. One wrong strike and the whole stone shattered into useless, sharp little pieces, so they slowed down on purpose, every single time. They practiced restraint with every tap of the hammerstone, and that same restraint carried straight into the hunt itself later on. Fire took just as much patience as any hunt. Rubbing two sticks together does not create flame in seconds, no matter what movies suggest. It takes steady, repetitive effort, often for many long minutes before the first thin wisp of smoke even appears. Stop too soon, and the whole effort is wasted, along with the wood and the energy already spent. Early humans who mastered that patience got warmth, safety, and cooked food. Everyone else stayed cold, hungry, and vulnerable to whatever moved in the dark. Big prey meant big risk, and that called for group patience too, not just individual patience. A wounded buffalo can kill a careless hunter in seconds flat. No exceptions. So groups waited for the right moment, the right angle, and the right numbers before ever attacking together. Acting too soon got people hurt or killed, sometimes permanently. Waiting, even when hunger was screaming at them, kept the whole band alive to eat again the next day. Scavenging demanded a different, quieter kind of patience. Early humans often waited near a lion kill until the actual predators had eaten their fill and finally wandered off. Move in too early and the hungry lion is still right there. It simply kills the intruder instead. Wait too long and hyenas or vultures strip the carcass clean before anyone else arrives. Getting that timing right took nerve, careful observation, and a stomach for sitting still while danger paced nearby. Imagine a young hunter who could not wait any longer. He spots a wounded antelope and charges early before the animal is actually weak enough to fall. The antelope bolts, kicks, and gores him badly in the leg before escaping into the brush. His band loses the meal, and now they also lose a working pair of hands for weeks while he heals. One moment of impatience cost the entire group far more than a single missed meal. Stories like this were not rare warnings. They were regular, lived lessons, repeated across countless bands and countless generations. Children learned this patience early, and it was not optional. Young hunters practiced sitting motionless for long stretches, well before they ever threw a real weapon at anything. Elders taught them to read wind direction, animal droppings, and shifting shadows across the grass. Rushing as a child usually meant scaring off prey as an adult later. So patience became a taught skill, passed down deliberately, not just a personality trait some people happen to have. There is a brain science angle behind all of this too. Choosing to wait instead of grabbing whatever food sits nearby right now relies on a part of the brain that plans ahead and controls impulses. That region grew larger in humans over time, likely helped along by exactly this kind of pressure. Every successful patient hunt reinforced the same lesson inside the brain. Again and again, waiting paid off. So the brain kept getting better at waiting, generation after generation, almost like training a muscle nobody could see. Some seasons offered almost nothing worth hunting at all, and everyone knew it. Early humans had to plan around real scarcity, saving dried meat, tracking migration routes months ahead of time, and trusting a payoff that might not arrive for weeks. That kind of patience does not simply wait around and hope. It plans ahead on purpose, and it trusts a plan it cannot yet see actually working. Here is a myth worth correcting right now, once and for all. Cavemen did not club a mammoth to death every single week for dinner, despite what cartoons show. Most calories during this era actually came from plants, roots, insects, and scavenged meat, not from dramatic fresh kills. Big hunts happened, sure, but they were rare, high-stakes events, never a daily routine anyone could count on. Patience was not only useful during the hunt itself, it was just as useful for surviving the long, quiet stretches between hunts when absolutely nothing was guaranteed to anyone. Patience, not brute strength, kept most early humans alive through the slow weeks that history books tend to skip over entirely. Now compare all of that to today, and the contrast is almost funny. You open an app on your phone and food arrives at your door in 20 minutes flat. There's no tracking involved, and no reading footprints in dried mud. There is no waiting 6 hours near a water hole under a brutal sun. There is no chipping stone by hand for a single usable blade. There is no waiting on smoke to finally turn into fire. Modern life quietly removed almost every reason to practice real patience for actual survival. A video buffering for 3 extra seconds now feels like a personal insult. That shift is genuinely great for convenience and comfort. It is also exactly why a slow checkout line feels unbearable now, even though our ancestors waited far longer for far higher stakes without ever once complaining about it out loud. Here is what all of this actually reveals about us as a species. Patience was never just a nice personality trait for early humans to casually have or not have. It was survival equipment, every bit as real and necessary as a sharp stone or a strong throwing arm. The people who could wait quietly, track carefully, plan ahead, and stay calm under real pressure ate more often than everyone else around them. They passed on more of their genes because of that single trait generation after generation for hundreds of thousands of years. Every single time you resist checking your phone for 5 extra minutes, you are quietly using a skill that once meant the difference between eating that night and going hungry until tomorrow. Here is the takeaway worth actually remembering. Cavemen did not need patience because life back then was slow or easy. Life was brutal, urgent, and completely unforgiving almost every single day. They needed patience precisely because rushing got people killed, and waiting got people fed instead. That one simple trade-off quietly shaped human behavior for hundreds of thousands of years, long before anyone ever wrote a single word of it down. Every meal your ancestors ever ate as an adult was proof that patience had already worked before, at least once. So the next time waiting for anything feels unbearable, remember where that feeling actually comes from. Your brain was built by people who waited for hours in brutal heat, tracking a single animal across miles of open land. Their patience is quite literally the reason you exist today. Reading this sentence in a world with instant food and warm beds, picture yourself trying to survive a 6-hour hunt in blazing heat, tracking one single animal without ever giving up along the way. Tell me honestly in the comments below whether you think you would have made it. If prehistoric survival stories like this one genuinely interest you, hit subscribe today, because the next video breaks down exactly how our ancestors managed to sleep safely without a single bed, a locked door, or a working alarm clock anywhere nearby.